Hey, how you guys doing? It's the Producer and Brothers Comics. Welcome to the Marvel Hack, Season 12, Episode 2. We are on the path to the Sins of Sinister with the actual initial book tonight. On the line is the two-man booth. It's Brother Beavis. What's happening, man?
What's up? Welcome back, Sinisters.
Yes, it's yeah, Sinisters, plural. To recap, we read last week Immortal X-Men 8, 9, and 10, and that was the path to get to this particular book. And
The road
basically,
to the path to the street that
yeah,
Sinister lives on.
yes, and the basic function of those books was to let us know that Sinister had been plotting really since I think we went to 1845 England, with his Essex factors and all of this, and Destiny and Mystique had been, kind of following him through history to see what he was doing with his schemes and machinations. And the books were okay. I mean, there was nothing, they're kind of three entirely different books, but the end part of issue number 10 was basically that he needed to kill a certain group of people on the Quiet Council of Krakoa to put his plans in order. He had a box of Moira resets, and every time he would make a mistake on his plan, he could just reset the timeline to keep going and going and going like
He
the
had like a fistful of crazy
Energizer Bunny.
cats tokens trying to beat Dragon
Yeah,
Slayer back in the
exactly.
day.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's running. The warrior is getting low. So you had to keep stuffing them warriors into this box to get this to work. So those were the three issues, and then it ended on God. I don't even remember what it ended on now. That he
Xavier.
did finally kill everybody. Oh, that's right. And then when Xavier turns around on the final panel, when he takes the Cerebro cradle off, he's got the diamond in his forehead, as if to say, "Oh shit, he's sinister?" Question mark.
Yeah, we were
That,
trying to figure out the long-term booking if that was like if the
right.
because since the reboot, like Xavier's generally had the helmet off, and I don't know if he's ever actually taken it on, so taken it off. So they do cross timelines and multiverses and whatnot. So this could have been restarted any number of times, but they did. The kind of suggestion is that for as long as there's been a helmeted or helmeted Xavier, he's been Sinister.
Correct. So, and then in one of the books, and this gets explained here in this one, that Miss Destiny had name dropped that, like, yeah, he's trying to drop his DNA into people to little success, but that was in 1943.
Seed.
Yeah, son. And so now, if you're watching on YouTube, we'll kind of go along here. There's 10 slides to kind of get through the book, and we got some stops there and some questions and whatever. We'll see if StreamYard is laggy McLag tonight, but I don't think it is. So, what do you think about the cover? Our writer is Kieran Gillen. So he's been one writing Immortal X-Men. He's the head on Sins of Sinister.
I mean, it doesn't blow me away for a $6 book or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's kind of ironic that like it sends a Sinister, but he is prominent, but
Mm,
he's not necessarily featured. And like
yeah, rap term.
there, some people I can see like obviously Nightcrawler, Storm, Wolverine, but like there are people on here. I'm not sure
Yeah,
who
why is
that is.
Bishop on here? Yeah.
Yeah,
Nobody cares.
yeah.
Nobody cares about Bishop. All right. So we open in, and it is a recap, literally, of the House of X and Power of X opening on Krakoa. That opening scene by Pepe Larraz. I don't know if that's a direct lift or if that's somebody actually just the new artist here drawing his version of it. Where you
And
see
the arc with where the White Queen kind of did this had they started that story the same way. Was that
yeah,
the more X or whatever? So
yeah,
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 this is the
Inferno.
thing. Like is it, the rotating cast of who's ever welcoming somebody's X Men to them.
Yes, and it is Sinister's come to me, and this is Sinister bringing out this group of people. Now they do the same thing that House of X and Power of X did, but they did it on a level of like well, House of X was 0 years, 10 years, 100 years,
Hmm.
1,000, something like that. So this one starts that way, but as it goes through the book, there's a couple of I guess starting points where it is here. But yeah, he goes, "Come to me, my Sinisters," and of course, Cyclops is the first one out of there, and that's where we get to that part of the book. So in the next page of we'll call it a red page that we have to pay for, they recap everything that goes on. We'll get one of those white pages here coming up soon, but basically, I mean, I was like, okay, so we really got to get into it. I'm gonna go to the next slide. Okay, so at the end of Immortal 10, we saw Xavier with the cradle off, and he had the diamond on. And so our scene here coming up is that he's talking to himself, but Emma comes in and is like, oh shit, she's about to bust him. But okay, spoiler alert, everybody's sinister on the council except, and we'll get to the exception crew here in a second. So Emma's a sinister, Hope is a sinister, Exodus is a sinister, like everybody's sinister. And so the plot is okay, well, how the hell is he controlling these people, correct?
Yeah, and I think I don't know if they spill it right away, but apparently that they were talking in episode 10 about like how Hope was the key, and for whatever reason she
Yes.
was blocking his ability to get his seed into everybody, and so
Right.
without her in the loop, now he's just popping X-Men out, Essex Men out left and right.
Yes. Yeah. So there was four people specifically that he had to had to kill on the council, and they go over this part when his plot was found out. He was banished to the pits, and now the council, led by Xavier, is really kind of led by Sinister, is coming up with this idea. Okay, so what are we going to do now with Krakoa? And it comes up with this idea like, hey, we're going to share the mutant immortality with the humans to get them on our side. And oh well, the council's not going to agree with it. But the part that scared me, or not scared me, that freaked me out or made me laugh was like, wait, all these people are playing their roles, like, Exodus, I ain't gonna go for this,
Mm-hmm.
fuck them humans or whatever, blah 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 blah. I'm like, wait, he's playing all these roles. This shit is like when Eddie Murphy was playing all the clumps.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
and there that sort of that comes back to like this sort of arc completes in this book, but yeah, there's a little bit of them left, or he's playing the role or whatever. But yeah, they're not entirely puppets. They may not have any will to do something different than what Sinister wants, but they're not entirely puppets.
yeah, but yeah, he's playing their roles like, hey, you know what? This is what they would say in this situation if this was it. And Xavier's like, towards the dream, we got to make, peace with these flat scans or these humans and whatnot. And so the plot goes on and on and on. And so they try to figure out a way. Okay, so if we're going to share their immortality with them, we have to implant them with an X gene, so to help with the resurrection process. And so, how are we going to do that? And then they go into this bit where the Cuckoos and Forge are going to, create something to be able to get it. Will they voluntarily do it? But also on the council, people that are not Xaviers or Sinisters: Storm, Nightcrawler. Who else is not a
Kitty.
Sinister? Kitty, and then Nightcrawler technically, but we'll come back to that in a minute.
Is
So
Colossus here? Because there was
he,
a one of those pages we have to pay for. They
yeah,
suggested he was compromised, and I don't know if he was compromised to Sinister or something else.
he is compromised the Sinister. It shows up later in the book.
All right.
But yeah, it wasn't necessarily clear though, because except for Hutch, nobody cares about Colossus. But
Mm.
anyway, yeah, because that's his boy. All right, so that is that bit. Okay, so what do you think about this idea that he's implanted this? It's a Joker esque DC plot, but a kind of an interesting idea, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is the end game. If you basically override all of, I guess, humanity or mutanity to where it's just, basically your DNA pervades everybody. Like, I feel like that's like a genetic path to extinction. So I'm not sure that the near term goals play out for any sort of fruitful end game. Like,
Right.
I guess like he gets to create the world with no opposition to experiment however he would, but yeah, it, unclear at this point. So I'm not sure what the 10 years or the 100 years are going to hold.
Well, in his manifesto that we'll get to here momentarily, like the whole part of this is to prevent, like in the 1,000 years or whatever, of the machines rising
Mm,
up and destroying the mutants and the humans. And so his thought meaning that if we can control everybody and kind of come to this, singularity, that'll be a possibility of holding off or, fighting off the machines.
yeah,
All right.
and then interesting because the machines were the humans' answer to mutants. So if he could
Mhm.
bring about, in effect, bring about Xavier's dream in this perverted way, then maybe that doesn't come to pass.
Right. We get a Ben. You're exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait, what? He was black in Daredevil, but I guess not in here anymore. So yeah, so he he is an investigative reporter. He winds up going to see J. Jonah Jameson about a particular story about the mutants and possibly the mutants that come up with this thing that they've implanted in the humans. And he comes up, he has this machine like, oh, I have to test you to make sure you're not a scroll or whatever. And he shoots him with him. But surprise, nigga, it was a plot by freaking Sinister himself. He's already implanted and infected J. Jonah Jameson. He put that story out there, fake news, to rustle out, press or people to try to figure that out. And Jonah Jameson got goons, man. He got goons.
Yeah,
Look, tell me
I
this
know.
ain't some Joker shit. Look at
Yeah,
his goons.
yeah.
Uh,
They do
uh,
have that sort of blank. Yeah, he is a little Joker esque here.
yes, the plot is very Joker esque. Have you ever has Joey JJ ever been in a X-Men comic book? I mean, just off the top of your head, in a
Uh,
speaking role,
I
seems
can't
very.
remember that being the case, which is ironic because his whole thing is pointing out public menaces. I
Mm,
remember he was in the Avengers book because Spider-Man was, and they try to
mhm.
like they were like, "Oh, we need, you need to get on board and like stop this." He's like, "Mm-hmm. Let me tell you about Spider-Man." Yeah, so but it's interesting like the comparison between Sinister and the comparison between Sinister and Joker, I think, is interesting. So
Yeah.
obviously, there's a difference in power level, but in terms of anarchy and just chaos, yeah, it's
Yes.
interesting.
He's trying to turn over the world here, literally.
And I think Joker could rock these Sinister boots, and
Yes. Oh, yeah.
so
He could
yeah,
be fabulous. Yeah,
and similar
absolutely.
haircut.
Mhm. The next step on his plan here is to destroy Krakoa.
Kinda, yeah, right.
Uh, yeah, kind of, sort of, to take out the sentient part of it and Douglock. Uh, because I didn't understand the because though. Like, why did he need to make Krakoa a vegetable?
Well, I think it's because I'm not sure because not all of this makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to
Mm,
like we need Krakoa to exist, but we don't want Doug. So Doug has foiled people's plans, and he's backed by
yeah.
Krakoa. So like we need this
Mm,
island, but we don't necessarily need it to have a brain. But then the
mm,
other side of it is, and I don't know anything about Araco, which is
yeah.
apparently Mars or whatever. So there could be something to
Yeah.
that as well.
That's that Exosword stuff. Yeah. 22 issues, y'all. So Forge has created essentially the Justice League canon
Hmm.
from their what the Watchtower or whatever, and he has that cannon shoot down and turns Krakoa into a vegetable, and then Wolverine Sinister takes out Douglock in a fairly graphic shot here. If you're
Yeah.
on the YouTube channel, you've seen that he takes him out pretty graphically, and then that's the end of Krakoa,
Did
and
you
then Hope.
find the dialogue "What girl doesn't want to headshot a whole island from orbit" a little bit?
Yeah, it's a little bit off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just
Okay.
check.
We gotta take a 30-second time out too. Okay. Hope sucks.
I thought you were gonna go. Who the fuck is Hope?
Well, we read some of those books. No. That man, Thursday night comic book show kind of stuff back in the day. Uh, at least alluded to it with the X-Men versus Avengers stuff. She sucks. Her powers are beyond nebulous, which they allude to here. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
really sure why her powers are making things
Yeah.
goofy or whatever, but yeah, she
She's one of
sucks.
5 people who can copy people's powers, but somehow she's different and special.
Correct. Yes, and
Yeah.
then and her history, is she the techno virus Nate
Is she?
Gray's child and whoever else. Yeah, I
No.
think that is like why she's so powerful because her seed is from the untainted cable. So that's why
Okay.
she's so powerful.
All
Right?
right.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, you almost a piece of.
But she was the first mutant after M Day, or after wasn't that?
Oh, I ain't get that far.
Yeah, I don't know.
She sucks. Like she sucks.
Yeah, they
So
really
just another.
haven't like you. Y'all know I love Cyclops, but
Yeah.
that family tree is not anything. Hope was
they,
the first mutant born after M Day,
mm.
trained by her adopted father Cable in the far future
Oh,
until she was ready to
adopted.
return to the present day.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
mm, she's as complicated as Cable.
Yeah. Great. Get some pockets. All right. So the mutants after Krakoa gets attacked and vegetized, they were like, hey, you know what? Orcus did this shit. Now we
Mm-hmm.
can't give y'all the immortality because it was Orcus, and Orcus did it. And so, much like everybody would think, if that were to happen, the humans turned on Orcus, and they also enlisted the heroes to turn on the Orcus Forge that's in space. And so we get this shout out of all of the Marvel, well, not all, but a lot of the Marvel heroes here coming up. And you see the Avengers coming to fight, the Fantastic Four. The artwork here is actually kind of cool, but
Mm-hmm.
then it falls apart here in this 46-page book, by the way. Like later on, it's like, ooh, dude got tired.
At least the
Um,
Avengers finally showed up when the X-Men needed help. I
that's
mean,
fair. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Our boy Nimrod gets a virus in him and kind of wipes him out that was created by Forge, Iron Man, and Reed Richards. You would think they would be able to come up with something to take out that robot. I would
yeah,
assume. Yeah,
which is ironic because like he's basically been untouchable throughout the rest of
yeah.
the X-Men's history, and they show up. It's
But
like,
yeah, look
yeah.
at that. Yeah, but look at that art though. I think I have it as a slide too. That art, like with Thor and all that, I mean, that's some solid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's some really good stuff. But like I said, it falls apart later on. Cyclops, your boy, he finally shows up. He shows up and it's just like, yeah, thanks for helping us. You guys should be mutants. Why don't you take this X gene? Okay, okay. This is when I put my hand on my knife. Okay, so we're to believe that Captain America of all people, maybe if you had the team being led by Wasp, Captain America of all people is like, you know what? Captain America sounds pretty good. Let me take this pill or do whatever the fuck. Does that make any sense to you with the characterization that we've known for freaking 50 years?
Only perhaps that in the recent history they used the resurrection protocol on him
Oh, that's right.
to
In the Eternals thing.
yeah.
Mm,
So only in that regard, in that they talked him into like being essentially a sacrifice to marshal the rest of the world and
mm,
then use the resurrection protocol on him. So only in that regard because they kind of already opened it up to him. But
okay.
then he would be if I was him, I'd be like, "Well, y'all already resurrected me once. Why do I have to get this gene in me, son?"
Right.
So,
Yeah. And unbeknownst to him, spoiler alert, anybody that's been resurrected, see mutants, Sinister's got his seed in.
yeah,
That
well,
was the key.
but he was resurrected during the Hope administration.
Oh,
So he
okay.
would not have had the sinister seed in him.
Oh, okay. Well, I meant any mutant.
Oh, well,
Any mutant, yeah, any mutant that was resurrected during, yes, any mutant resurrected, they have the Sinister gene in them. And so if we think about,
only because Hope was blocking it. Only when Hope's not in the loop of the five.
oh, okay, there you go. So think about it like this then. What? No, really? Is that it?
Yes,
Is that said in there?
I think so.
Okay, okay. Because I'm thinking, okay, so how does? Hmm. Because I'm thinking about like the books that we read, like even in House of X and Power X. Remember they kept making those trips to the Orcus thing, and they kept having to come back and keep doing it over and over again until
Mm-hmm.
they were successful.
Mm-hmm.
And in X Force, that a bunch of people died as well, and they were resurrected. I was thinking like every time, and we'll get to it in a second. Every time that they were resurrected, they used the Sinister's DNA database, and he had just slid their DNA in there from that point. But I didn't know, like, since Hope got involved, then maybe it was later.
Yeah, so I think what happened is,
Hmm.
so they start off with a bunch of people being dead that they have no access, but Sinister had basically been collecting DNA on everybody because he's a
Mm-hmm.
freak. So he
Freak.
had the database. That's why they had to let him on the Quiet Council. And
Mm-hmm.
so then, presumably, after everyone's come back, they could eventually get their new DNA, and then they wouldn't need Sinister anymore. And so I think he was trying to embed his DNA in everybody, but he couldn't because Hope's special magic superpowers were blocking him. So once he takes her out, then his DNA propagates. And then his thing is whenever he dies, he can remanifest in somebody that has his genetic sequence.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I think I said you right before we started. I left my notepad at work or whatever. I said Ford created the neogenic recombinator to destroy Krakoa.
Yeah,
That's what it
basically.
was. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
That is
That's
the
basically
answer to all your problems.
correct. So now that he's in control of pretty much everybody on Krakoa, he gets raised from the pits, and he's back. And then as he heads off back to
And look
his
at
secret
Krakoa in
base,
the background, just like,
yeah, with drooling, yeah,
it's messed up.
yep. And as he heads back to his secret base on Muir Island, we get the Scooby Doo plot explanation here. Like
Hmm.
this is full on Scooby Doo, and he explains everything. One about what we were just talking about him sliding his DNA. His DNA database was fine, and he's like, no, everything's good with it. It's perfectly clean, unbeknownst to them that he had been sliding his seed up in it, and then using that, like you said, to infect everybody else once they were brought back through the resurrection protocols without any with Hope interfering or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, because he's like that
And then
bottom there. He's like, except it didn't work, and then he goes on to explain how she's the
yeah,
anti MacGuffin.
yes. And then we get his manifesto on the white pages that we have to pay for. And he has like a 7 point plan or whatever. And again, everything really goes back to the Moira engines about him taking Moira's power. And then every time he makes a mistake, just hitting the reset button,
Hmm.
control, alt, delete, and then starting over and learning from his mistakes. Okay. That leads me to this question. Okay. So again, it's probably in a book that we didn't read. When did he find out about Moira?
Um. So one thing we know is like I think that he he was in the know when Mystique was trying to clone or get um Destiny's DNA so that
To
she could be
resurrect.
regenerated. So I think at least at that point, but this kind of suggests like forever.
Yes, it does, and to the point. And I had to go back. I would have to go back and read Immortal. That did he create Moira with this X gene?
I don't think so, but the
Okay.
one thing that just hit me, remember like I don't know if this was part of her story, but she caught the legacy virus at one point because she was
Yes.
doing research on it, and everybody's like,
Hmm.
"Well, it hopped to a human." So
Hmm.
I don't know if they ever touched on that. I guess it didn't because she's been a mutant all along. No,
Right.
I don't know. I think he knew and kind of I think he just got in like she was scheming and he out schemed her because that's kind of
Hmm.
his thing,
Right. Little finger.
pretty
So
much.
yeah. Yep. So yeah. So he's resetting the timeline, and he's going to gloat when it's all over. I mean, that's basically it. And now we get this real. I don't have them up for the slides, but we get the turning. Okay, so I think I text y'all that I said, okay, on the second read of this, I was okay. The first read I read through it, I was just like, man, $6. The second read, I was just like, okay, you know what? This is actually not that bad of a book.
Mm,
If you stopped at a point and then maybe told some of the stories that you're going to see here in the last few pages in books that we cared about. But they don't
yeah,
do it. They just give it away like if it's just like, hey, you know what? What the fuck? All right, so I control the X-Men, but then now my future cognitive events powers are going to tell me these other things are going to happen. So let's just show you how those things were handled in like 5 panels, just to let
yeah.
you know. Like okay, okay. So Thanos has to make an appearance in an X-Men book. Why? What? Who? What? What? Who? What? Why? Like seriously? Okay.
Although the alternative would have been they would have declared this like the Sins of Sinister event, and there would have been all
All
these
over the books.
unconnected tie-ins, and there would have
Yeah,
been
that's fine.
a House of Juggernaut book with this payoff, and a House of Namor book, and a
Yeah,
House of
that's fine.
Uranus book, and
Yeah,
House of
you're right.
yeah. So
You're right. Okay, so
maybe they saved you just by they gave you the last page of 5 stories you probably weren't going to read.
correct. All right, so Thanos gets lobotomized by Juggernaut, who shot through him through a fastball special or whatever through Thanos's brain, and
Because
then
who doesn't love headshots?
yep, and he shot off into space to never be seen again for Juggernaut, by the way. And they did name drop him like that they had put his whatever in the Kane family when he was trying to do this in 1943, that
Yeah.
he was one of the families that they did that to. Then Namor
Also, not a mutant, right?
also, yeah, correct. Also not a mutant. Um, then Namor kills Doom.
Yeah, his boy.
Namor is a sinister, but I love the thing that's like, oh yeah, they infected him after he was fucking Emma. Yeah. What's the exact quote there? Von Doom was unaware that Prince Namor was already compromised
A
after a boudoir
boudoir
murder.
murder. What a way to go.
Namor liked them blondes.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
then the Eternals thing, I ain't even try to explain that. I
She
mean,
was like,
the
"Call
fuck.
me Sue."
Yeah. I didn't try to even I try to explain this Eternal stuff, man. Like
I was like, which one of these people is Uranus? Like, I don't even know.
I was like, where's Jon Snow?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, or not Jon Snow, Rob Stark. Like, well, Jon Snow was in that movie too.
Yeah.
Where's Salma Hayek?
Mm,
Because no, it's just honestly, oh yeah, side brother topic. I don't get that movie. I
no.
don't get it.
It
I don't understand it. I don't get it.
I mean, I understand it and it's beautiful to look at, and it's just I don't I don't like it. It's I I don't like it. I don't
Yeah,
think it need to be made.
sure, certainly.
I
Uh,
mean, if the upshot is this was the way to get like Cersei and the Black Knight into the Avengers, okay, but I don't think you needed to do that for 3 hours or two
no,
hours or whatever.
yeah. And then the Fantastic Four, they go
Mm,
out like some suckers too, but they couldn't get Reed because he had like some sort of fail safe in his
it's too
brain.
malleable.
Yeah, so he went to
Ben,
Ben, who's obviously dumb, and with the implication being dumb,
yeah.
and he takes out pretty much everybody after it's yeah, okay. Like okay, I get that. I wouldn't have wanted to read a Fantastic Four Sins of Sinister crossover event book. I agree. I totally agree. However, that story probably and the story of all these other people, except for maybe the Eternals that nobody cares about, that story would probably be better told like with some time. Like I would
Mm,
like to have seen that. Or you don't spoil all of them that they're all sinisters all at once and it's kind of spread out in a certain way. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's I mean, I don't need to see Namor and Emma fucking, but
I mean,
a
these are
story
things
about
that
them
certainly could
taking
have
out
panned out 10 years in the future, which apparently is what we're going to have to read.
right, yeah. So I'm just saying that was it would have been at least something. Um, so yeah, and then the Avengers they get taken out to. This is a total lift job off a Captain America cover, right?
Yeah, very similar to
With
one.
Wolverine.
The is that once or 268?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very absolute lift off. It also looks like that's a shot from Civil War with the Iron Man thing there too. But yeah, that Rogue design there awful.
Yeah.
The face design, the hair, the
Yeah.
Carol Danvers is pretty bad too. Like I said, yeah, I mean it's fine. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Like it seems like these stories now the X-Men are Earth's mightiest heroes now. Like they are the heroes to the world since they've saved everybody from everybody because, Sinister's plot made it so. So I mean, how are you feeling about this? Again, as a story in and of itself, before it ends here, I mean, how are you feeling about it?
I mean, I honestly like I was okay, like you said, up to where the story should have ended.
Mm-hmm.
because it did seem to sort of tie together what we've been reading. I was indifferent to these sequence of pages, and then I actually kind of after that I kind of got excited about sort of the elevation of Storm,
Mm-hmm.
who again I guess we would have to read a bunch of Morocco stuff to understand what was going on, but like
Yeah, bro, I was lost.
she kind of shines here, and I was like, oh, okay, I can get behind this.
Right. Yeah, I was lost. Hate the design of that costume though,
Oh,
but
hers.
yeah, I don't
Yeah, I
like
was
it.
like, why do you have elf ears now, or what is
Yeah,
happening?
yeah.
Yeah,
There's something going on. It's like, yeah, there's something with a Rocco,
and I think
something with
she like has like different hair every scene she shows up or something
yeah,
like that.
well, again, the art falls apart the
Yeah,
later the book goes on. But yeah, so Storm is unsinistered. She had something implanted in her head on a Rocco or whatever to prevent
she
her.
removed herself from the Sinister protocols because resurrection is not part of whatever their battle creed is or whatever. So her and Magneto removed themselves from the resurrection protocols, so Sinister doesn't have their DNA.
Got it. Yeah. So what she's under on the council, she's like, Kurt is a fraud. It's not really Kurt. What is this? Sinister out of the pits is like, yeah, here's Kurt, and he's some freaking sort of beast or whatever. And this other one's just, like a puppet for Sinister that's out on the council. And, the whole council turns on her. There's your boy Colossus. He's there. He got the red dot
Yeah.
or the red diamond, and then everybody else that's on there from Namor to Magic to
Oh yeah,
who
they
am I missing? Hope.
repopulated the council.
Yes, yeah, because there was the empty seats, and so
There's
they try to take her over, but it doesn't work, and she, calls on the elements and brings,
winds, hear
yeah,
my call.
the onomatopoeia, y'all, is krakum, and she wipes out pretty much everybody there on the council that are going to need to be resurrected, and then she teleports out, and then she winds up meeting up with Destiny and Mystique, and they tell her, "Look, bitch, um, yeah, you got to join us." Because we know what's up, and we're going to have to come up with some sort of plot. So that's going to lead to her little spin-off book that's in this not this recap, but in the series of Sins of Sinister's book. I think it's Storm and the Bloodline or something like that. I don't know. Like I think she was a vampire at some point in time in
No,
life.
there was a vampire storm from
Oh,
the
okay,
alternate
that's
universe.
right. Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was Bloodstorm, who
Bloodstorm.
Cyclops was about, but then I think she died or
Mm,
undied or whatever.
undied. Yeah. Okay.
Then
And so
we get
go ahead.
like I was gonna say I think we might have skipped over it, but yeah, at one point, Destiny and it might have been the previous book. Destiny and Mystique were like, we got to go.
Yeah.
And they left, and now they're hooked up. And so the three of them with Storm, this is kind of the part of it that got me interested. And
Yeah.
you have to say, like Mora was right. You do not want a precog on your, you know, as your enemy when you can reset reality and play it through.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
and then we get like another sequence of 5 pages of the end of a story we're
it,
apparently not going to read.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, this is what happened to Asgard. And then in between that, Sinister's like, oh, shit. All right. So we're going to have to repopulate these folks that just died on the resurrection, which is perfectly fine. But what he didn't realize was that,
Uh
oh,
huh.
so these people still have their personalities, even,
Yeah.
excuse me, even though my seed is in them, they still, Xavier still believes in the dream. Emma still wants to protect the children. Like all of those things are still in them, and they want that to keep going, and he's like, ooh,
Yeah.
didn't anticipate that. And so we'll get back part to the end, but yeah, so we get to see Hell. Shaw is in control of Hell.
He's got
um
finally got his Hellfire Club, I guess.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Magic destroys Asgard. She sucks also.
With
Hope
the
with a,
why she's large and she kicks a building, I don't
yeah,
understand.
Hope with a sword.
No more Wanda,
And
obviously. That's
yeah,
interesting.
Wanda, yeah, yeah, and that was, I mean, yeah, Wanda be taking some massive L's in these comic books recently. Just like, yes, just because I guess for whatever she did,
It's like
no more.
her like no more mutants is like Tully's I quit. Or
Yeah,
I guess he
yeah, I
never
can't
said
get
I
away
quit.
from it. I
He
can't get
said
away
yes.
from it.
Do you quit? Yes. So
I
I was
can't
trying
get
to
away from it.
figure out on this X-Men, like, okay, so it's like Colossus Beast, I guess Wolverine,
Hmm.
Cyclops, maybe. I don't know. I was like trying to figure out who all these people are put together from. But
Yeah, it's not I don't know.
and we
Yeah, and
get
that was the other part. Yeah, I didn't even understand this part. it was like, okay, so the what did he call them? The chimeras. So
So Chimera,
is
so
it
Chimera
chimera?
is so if you remember in House of X, Powers of X, the Chimeras was the blending, like the multi-generational DNA implants to manifest multiple powers. But in regular
Mm,
genetics, it's just something that's a combination of genes. Or in Dungeons and Dragons, it's a creature with the heads of a goat, a dragon, and a lion. So yeah, but just yeah, it's multiple X genes in single host,
okay, yeah. I thought
which
that
is
was
a
that place
genetic
the
term.
Russians was trying to take over. So that's not Crimea,
No,
where the Russians
that's
they're not trying to do.
that
Okay.
that is Crimea. This is Chimera. It's something different. It's
Okay, got it,
more out of
man. Shoot,
mythology.
I was like, man, Putin out on these X Men too.
And
So yeah, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand the
we
page where freaking Storm was fighting these creatures. I was like, what's going
that's
on
the
here? Like the
what
book
you
is falling
forgot. We
apart.
get a Sugar Man sighting.
Oh
Boo,
yeah, that's sugar. Oh
boo to
my
the Sugar
god.
Man.
It's just like I'm saying, it just started to fall. I was like, wait, if
Yeah.
y'all had stopped this at some other point, you had a fairly tight book. There was no reason you had a solid 4.99, not 6.99 book. And yeah, so we go to 10 years in the future. Storm is wanted. You see her wanted posters all over. There's a Nightcrawler Spider-Man. Okay, sure,
Oh, I didn't see
whatever.
that. I missed out on
Yeah,
the
you don't see her
tail.
with the tail.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. And then Foggy Nelson gets run off the streets for speaking ill of the new world order here. Um, and again, like it's like okay, so y'all aren't going to do a crossover book like all over, which is thankful. But also, you're just bringing in characters that don't really. I mean, they're in the universe, but really not in the X universe or whatever. Like I don't know. It was just kind of weird. But
Well,
yeah, so
it's interesting to see after kind of being marginalized for so long. The X-Men now everybody can be in their books. So I don't know.
mhm.
This is the signal of the return to the
Yeah,
MCU?
that's true. Oh yeah, we alluded to it back at the council where these people are like, hey, they still have their personalities. Sinister was like, I don't like that. So yeah, but the thing is, like, okay, so Kitty's still involved in this, but she's not
She's got to
been
be. Yeah,
a
you can't
Sinister.
see because they draw her with so much hair. I think there might have been a period where she wasn't corrupted, but I think at this point everybody on
Yeah, you would think
Krakoa is
she'd be
anyway.
fighting against it or whatever. And then, and again, we never read the books. Like, what was the solve? Remember, she couldn't even get onto Krakoa there for a
Right.
while.
And then
You
she
know,
died at one point, so I
is
don't.
that what it was? Maybe she got resurrected, which is why she's got that
I,
seed in her too.
I think she died because she got chucked over. She got like killed and thrown in the river, and then Lockheed like flew back and alerted them, and then Bobby went crazy and started killing
No,
pirates or whatever.
and the Marauders. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
but
but
I didn't read that either. I don't know what the solve for that was to get her on the island.
okay. Well, Sinister don't like that these people with personalities. He's just like, you know what? Nah, that don't work for me, brother. Uh, he's like, yeah, we're not gonna do that. Let me just go back to Muir Island. Let me queue up a Moira, and everything's going to be good. But then he goes back to his home base there, and now there's Wanda on the YouTube if you didn't see it before, and he goes back to his base, and it's gone. His Moiras are gone. His
No more
research is
saves.
gone. Exactly. He's like, what happened to my lab? And now the ending word is I'm trapped. I was like, that's a good plot line.
Yeah.
This idea of that you set this world in motion with the thought that you had it under control and you can't reset it. What are you going to do now that you don't have your Moira engine?
Right,
And I was like,
because
oh,
this whole thing with the council not necessarily being with him is an obstacle, but
mm-hmm,
it's not like dying. So
mm-hmm,
it's like eventually there will be a threat. How does he now? Does he now have to become some kind of hero or even
mm-hmm.
more of a villain or whatever? So yeah.
Yeah, and God, I hope he doesn't turn babyface. That would be bad. So yeah, so when you get to the checklist at the end there, then for us, we're playing it out like live and on air. Like there's going to be some picking and choosing here. Okay, so in a normal situation, there'd be a Sins of Sinister 1, 2, 3, and 4 main plot line would go through there. But Marvel don't try to play those games anymore. They want you to be reading all the, as Hutch has called them, side angle side books, and we're not going to be doing that. So we'll look to see where this kind of goes. But I would imagine that the main plot book, which is Immortal X-Men, now turns into Immoral X-Men, will probably be carrying the main plot through this. And then the Storm book and the Nightcrawler book. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that
mean,
ain't
it
happening.
seems like the primarily Storm, Mystique, Destiny arc would play through Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants, which
Right.
they were at one point the new Brotherhood of Mutants, so that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah.
Immoral should continue the Quiet Council, which obviously features Sinister. Nightcrawlers, I have no idea what that's going to be.
Yeah. That again, we've read Nightcrawler solo books and minis before. Never again. The North remembers. So I mean, again, the overall idea of this, the plot, the premise, is fairly solid. It is long-term booking, and it's confusing enough to not know when this particular started if you hadn't read the books like we hadn't. But even if you're picking up point here, it wasn't that difficult to get on board with this. I mean, what'd you think?
So I think they definitely explained it, but like just the general mechanics of Krakoa, I think if you had a fundamental understanding of that, but I
Yeah.
think there are things here that even if they're not spelled out that resonate with prior stories. So I think
Mm,
it's I the thing that stands out to me is like this era Sinister is completely different from his
yeah.
introduction, primarily around Inferno and things like that. The characters
Right.
evolved. So certainly, if you went from there to here, there might be a
Yeah.
learning curve. But I mean, it's
Yes.
not as disjoint as some of the stuff we pick up, where it's like they happen to be linked to Krakoa, but there's a whole ass other story going on that So yeah,
I'm,
it's
I, I didn't hate it.
yeah.
My first read, I definitely was like, "What have I gotten us into here?" But the second read, I was like, "Oh, okay." And I can kind of put the parts together, and I'm
Mm.
okay with it. So we'll
It's
continue on.
It's definitely closer to the central Krakoan arc that got us hyped to begin with. So it
Yes, that's
definitely
a real
does
good point.
feel like it's furthering the main storyline.
Yeah,
It's more as or more bizarre than any other thing they've done, but at least it's in the neighborhood.
and it's not 22 issues. Even if you picked up Nightcrawler, it's still only 9.
Mhm.
So,
And I do appreciate that it's not like, oh, here's 12 books coming out in the next month. It's like, no,
right,
this is actually the story, So I
right,
appreciate that's what I expect. That's what's always irritates me about the end of every book. It's like, oh, here's 10 other books you get. Well, but you
what do they
like,
have to do with the main plot?
yeah,
Yeah,
what is part two of what I just read? Is that next month or is it pick up someplace else? I don't know. And I'm not
yes.
going to go spend $12 to figure that out.
Yeah, it's what's like my son calls them those side missions.
Yeah.
Like stay on the main storyline, man.
Yeah.
I can't be doing all these side missions,
Yeah. You
getting
better let me know
distracted from
there's
the
like
plot.
a killer item out there I got to pick up to beat the boss or something. Otherwise, nah, just main
Yeah,
quest, son.
yeah, exactly. So, but yes, Sinister. I think he didn't get this in quick enough to get an Oscar nomination for Monday, because he should have gotten one for his playing all of the roles on the Quiet Council. He really had the whole thing going there. That was the part that got me this morning. I was like, wait a minute, that's him playing these people with the exact thing that they would say to manipulate the council to get what he wants.
Yeah. What
Bravo, sir.
one of the funny one was when he was like he voted against something because he was counting on Destiny and he voted a different way,
Yeah.
and she voted the opposite. Oh wait, no, I want to change my vote. That one was pretty funny.
Oh gosh. All right. So yeah. So we'll be back next week with episode 3. I get the reading order though, not the reading order, but the release date order has me all messed up. So next week would be what, the third?
Yes,
Hold
ish.
on. Hold on. I should have done this before. And maybe I did on my notes, but I don't have it. So what's actually coming out? Because if it's the Nightcrawlers, we're fucked. No, it's the first. So let's see what's coming out. Because there has to be a book on it. Because the release schedule was all messed up when I looked at it before. They were like, "Oh no, February 25th." I was like, "Nobody's waiting that long to get another book. That's like almost a month later for something else. And y'all gotta have these books all plotted out yet." So let's get down to the Marvel list really fast. Ooh, Vampirella's got something coming out. Yipes. Okay, so let's see. Scarlet Witch number 2. Nope, that ain't it. Not Storm. Maybe it was right. I don't
The
see a
list
book.
the list would suggest that Storm is next, but
Storm and the Brotherhood, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
or
it's not listed.
the sisterhood. So
There you go. I don't. Boom. It's not listed. I see other Marvel books and the Marauders and all that kind of stuff, but that's really weird. Hmm.
well, we
Well,
might be
we'll be
watching
back wrestling. Yeah,
Royal
yeah.
Rumble next
Yep.
week.
Playing like things out on live TV here. I was watching that tonight. I started watching it on Sunday to avoid that particular football game, and I pretty much finished it. And I was just watching it tonight before I started to record, and saw Hogan eliminate damn near everybody. And I was like,
That was definitely the worst part of Royal Rumble '89.
yes, oh god. And I just heard on Cornette's show as they just rewatched
Mm-hmm.
91 that
Two.
he was going for, yeah, he was going for 3 in a row at that point.
Oof.
I can't. I can't. But anyway, so we'll be back when this series picks up for episode 3. It might be a little break in there depending upon Marvel's shipping schedule. But yeah, got it on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube. Rate and subscribe. Search Brothers Comics. And yeah, man, that's it. So if you're on the podcast version, that's X-Men animated series. Music starts to play us out. I'm the producer and I'm signing off. Go ahead and sign off, man.
See you next time.
All right, everybody. We'll see you in a couple of weeks or next week. Peace.